The Business Oddcast.
And welcome to another Business Oddcast. This is Oddcast episode number 12. I'm your host, Stuart Morrison, and this is my fabulous, fantastic, and amazing co host.
Hannah Logan.
Yes, fantastic co host, but not lesser than. Exactly the same as, equal to.
Equal.
And in some cases, above. Like, today recording was supposed to happen half an hour after I thought it was going to happen. So I'm sat here all on my own, thinking,
Cursing me. Where the hell is she?
That's my sparring partner when I need her. Hello, how have you been? What have you been up to? How's your week been?
How's my week been? Yeah, it's not been too bad, but no, I'd say it's a fairly average to middling week.
How's the business been? How's things been going? You've been away for some meetings, I hear.
I have. So, yeah, still waiting back on a couple of proposals and, potential little bits and pieces in the pipeline, maybe. I try not to. The previous version of myself would have been literally like that on the edge of my keyboard, like, has it come in yet? Now I realise after, the reality of proposals that it doesn't work like that. And more often than not, you'll get, yeses as much as no's. So it's managing that kind of expectation, isn't it, really?
Well, that brings us neatly into the topic of the week, actually, because, the age-old thing of waiting for something or avoiding something, and the other person on the other side might be avoiding looking at your proposal because, demands on my time and my money, etc., etc. So, Hannah, what is the topic for today? Topic of the week.
Topic of the week, thank you, Stu, is what I like to call getting shit done with PDA. So pathological demand avoidance. I can never say that. Pathological makes me think of like serial killers and stuff, doesn't it? It kind of sounds really dark. It's not that dark. It just means that I'm allergic to instructions.
Allergic
I
to
like to call it
instructions.
NOPE, basically. PDA, or otherwise known as NOPE. Yeah.
So in this episode of, I think this is going to be quite a classic episode. In this episode of the Business Oddcast, we're going to be looking at pathological demand avoidance, that thing that could be best described as when you have a pet and you want to take them for a walk, and you're dragging on the leash, and their legs and arms are out, going, no, not gonna, that's PDA in the brain. It's the
Yeah.
brain's decision that whatever you say to try and motivate it to get it to do the thing that you want it to do, it wants to do something completely different. Doesn't matter how you turn up, what your intention is. As soon as somebody says to you, "Do you think you can do that?" Oh no. No, 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 no. So that's what we're going to be discussing. We're going to be looking at that. How does that turn up in your life if you're running your own business? Because if everyone's demanding something, how do you get through a day? So, do you want to? I know this sort of stuff. People can go out and they can research it and all the rest of it, but it's sort of rooted in that anxiety, that element of trying to stay in control, and just where you are and how dysregulated you are, and people quite often beat themselves up because they kind of, it looks on the outside, or it can look on the outside like laziness, and it can feel programmed into us, laziness or procrastination. What is your experience of PDA, Hannah?
Oh gosh, so much experience, so much experience. Throughout life, right? I'm sure you've got a million. I remember being at school. I'm not going to use this as a major example, but the teacher being like, "Today we're going to write an essay on our holiday this summer," and I'd be like, "No, I'm going to write an essay on like my new pet that I got." And I just remember thinking it wasn't even that I felt like, sod that, I'll do what I want. It was just my brain was like, no, no, I'm not doing that one today, thanks. And I just remember being really matter of fact as a kid. Yeah, no, no, miss, I'm not doing that. And they'd be like, why are you doing this? Why are you disobeying? I'm not being mean. I'm not just doing it. So it's just like a kind of matter of fact brainwave. Um, but I think when it comes to business for me, it's it's not just other people putting that demands, it's the demands of deadlines, right? So the moment I remind myself, so with quite a few of my clients, I write kind of monthly blogs and newsletters and stuff. Um, they always have a deadline because they get sent out the same point every month. So there's ways I'll come to this in a bit when we look at sort of tips and sort of ways that we can manage this a bit better. But I know what date this blog roughly needs to be finished, signed off, da 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 da. But the moment that I remind myself, so I have to try really hard not to. The moment I think, oh, that blog's due in a week, I better quit cracking on that. Then my brain's like, no, what do you mean blog? I've never written a blog in my life. I'm not doing it. It is not happening, Hannah. I don't want to. Like my brain's like, no, no, I don't want to, stamping its feet like rage brain. And it isn't the it's that frustration, isn't it? Because I know that I need to, and I actually want to. I love writing blogs. And yet my brain's like, no, too much pressure, not today. And it kind of, if I'm not careful, and I've got a lot of experience of this now, so I've got ways to help myself. But if I'm not careful, it can quite quickly spiral into that guilt and shame and, what's wrong with you? And, you've written loads of blogs. What's wrong with you? What do you mean you can't write a blog? And it sort of, doesn't it? I mean, I'm lucky this far down the line, it doesn't spiral more often than not. It doesn't. But
It
that's still
takes
a possibility.
it takes time to develop coping strategies so that it doesn't end up in a shame spiral.
Mm.
There's so many
Yeah, yeah,
neurodiverse traits which end with, and that's because you're insert epithet,
yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and then you start going like, oh, I can't cope in this world, and da 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 da, and you
Yeah.
just go, no, no, no. I, I hear that, and I get that, and I feel it at a physical level. It's
Mm.
it's what it feels like for me. PDA is like two poles of a magnet,
Yeah.
and they're both the same pole, so they're not attracting each other. They're actually, you can feel
Oh,
that force, and the more you try of, or the
mm.
more the external pressure in fact comes to get the thing done, it can just feel like that intangible force just pushing back at you. The task itself, your brain just can't
Yeah.
quite hook into, and you know that you need to do it. It's not like you're denying the existence of it or looking the other way and putting your fingers in your ear. In actual fact,
Mhm.
the noise in your head from it can be the only thing that you're hearing. Well, for me, it is. It can feel like I'm
Yeah, yeah,
I have to do this, and everything in my body is saying no, and yet it's the loudest thing in my head.
yeah,
And for me, that kind of beats out the shame spiral because I haven't got any. It's almost, it takes so much energy to turn the volume down in my head so that I can get on with whatever thing my brain decides that's the thing that you need to be doing, which can be frustrating.
yeah,
It can seem like an overwhelming weight sometimes.
yeah, absolutely that. I mean, hugely, I would say, this is a bold statement, listeners, watchers. I would say if there's anything in my autism, ADHD, spicy combo that I really struggle with from a business point of view, it is PDA because I'm self-employed for a reason. I'm self-employed for the same reason as probably most of our watchers or listeners are. And I love the freedom. It means I can write a blog at 2 in the morning if I want to. No one's there to tell me off. But at the same time, unless I'm very vigilant about creating my own structures and kind of parameters for the things that I do, then self-employment can lack that structure. Do you know what I mean? In a way, although we hate being told what to do because we really struggle with it, at the same time, when I was employed many moons ago, in a way, that pressure of like, don't forget, Hannah, you haven't done this yet, you need to get that report in, actually sometimes overcame the PDA because the pressure, although it was incredibly stressful, did kind of force me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I completely hear
Mm.
that that need to get the thing done, but you see, I think that breaks you slightly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And the the thing that I want to sort of
Mm.
underline though is it's not procrastination. I know procrastination. I've got
Yes.
many tidy sides and indexed things that make me sing when I look at them. Stand-ins for the work that I should be doing, but it's not the same as the PDA. It
Yeah.
manifests in a completely internally. It feels different. I know when I am noodling when I should be focused.
Yeah.
But when I am focused and my brain still refuses to do the very thing that I've sat down and I know I need to do, it it's like wading through treacle. It really is. And it's vastly different. It turns up in a vastly different way for me than the procrastination, which I feel fairly ambivalent about these days, because a lot of the stuff I do is creative, and you have
Yeah.
to kind of do the boring things to let your brain do the thing that I know it's doing in the background.
The magic is there. It's just not come to the front of the stage yet. It's behind the curtain still.
It's more the resistance to the word should.
Yeah.
It's more that imposed authoritarianism. There's nothing like somebody telling me what a rule is
Yeah.
and me wanting to ignore it at the first instance. Don't walk on the grass. The amount of signs that have said do not touch, don't walk on the grass,
You were
and I've
like
touched,
this.
or I've literally put my foot on it. Now you could say, Stuart, you child. Yes, yeah, but there's the anarchist-raccoon with the crowbar in my brain at all times, looking to smash it up and just turn it into chaos. So it feels like I'm pushing back against the man or whatever, but it's that imposition of somebody else's will on my own free will. I wasn't going to touch
Yeah.
it until you told me not to. What? How how does your brain serve that up as a reaction to that? It,
I hear you so. I hear you so much right now. It's yeah, 100%. All of that. I think as well, at the risk of a tangent, we all know that everyone's gathered by now. I am the queen of them.
tangent queen.
Queen of the tangent queen. I know, and it's taken me 50 years to get here, I know that my brain does not just poodle along at 20 miles or 40 miles per hour, whatever the speed limit is of my brain. My brain's like, yeah, all slow, like this, and one day I'll just be like 1,000 miles per hour, and the next day I'll be like limping along at 2 miles per hour. So because I know that, I harness, we've touched on this in previous episodes, but I harness those moments. So if somebody says, right, Hannah, you need to do this right now, I might be a 2 mile per hour day. And then I'm like, no, but tomorrow I will whiz through this in literally 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
it's being allowed, isn't it? Without having, making sure that you are the person saying you need to do this, because then you know how your brain is and your body is showing up, or your autism and ADHD is showing up that day. So I try as hard as I can, and it involves me being much kinder to myself. I know, like today, my brain is on. So
Yeah.
later on, I'll be cracking through some stuff that yesterday I just couldn't look at, didn't even try, didn't force myself. Because but when you're employed and they've decided, your lovely sales manager's like, right, everybody, like in a patronizing sales team talk, today we're going to do this. Are we? Yeah, no, I'm not. So it's just really...
What I need us all to do is, no, what you lot will be doing, I'll be rearranging something which, marginally input. But Monday, turn up, fired up.
I remember, I mean, I haven't been employed for many, many years, but I remember in my early 20s, and I had quite a stressful but enjoyable sales job. And there would be some days where, I don't think Facebook was massively a thing back then, but let's say it was, there would be some days where I am literally just like, has anybody noticed I am doing nothing? 8 hours solid of me just pretending to do something. And then there'll be other days where they're like, Hannah, it's 8 o'clock in the evening. You need to leave the office. You need to go home and have your dinner. And that was my way of kind of, back then, that 8 hours pretending to do something because PDA was not allowing me to do anything what a waste of my time, my boss's time, my life. And then the next day having to make up for it with a 12-hour day to catch up on the 8 hours of nothing day. You know what I mean? It's just such a mismanagement of my time and energy. And that's another really good reason why managing your own time, being your own boss, is huge for people with PDA.
Yeah, it's working out the coping strategies and understanding and listening to everything that's around you that can be feeding into this. I quite often find that the PDA bleeds from one area of my life into another.
Yeah.
Especially when I don't have autonomy over something. So,
Yeah.
somebody else is in charge of something, and then they want me to do something, but they want me to do it at their behest, at their time, at their scale, with the resources that they provide. And it's just like I work best. So think of it like this. I am not ever going to be part of a dance troupe, right?
Are you not? I'm so disappointed.
But put some music on and want to see some free-form shapes, I'm your man. And that's kind of it. Is like, you want me to turn up at this point and do these things like everybody else does at a time of your choosing for a length that you tell me. I want to gnaw my face off. Just way too many rules around that's why school was one long PDA for me. I don't understand why I'm here. Nobody ever told me why I'm in school. Oh, so you can get a job. No, 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 no. That's the outcome of going to school. School was always terrible because I was never told why. Why am I doing this? I'm getting up and I'm going in, I'm doing this all the time, so you can get a job. No, that's the result of what I'm doing. But why am I doing it this way? Why can't I read these books at home and just go in for the exams?
Yeah.
Because you won't learn. No, that's not how my brain works.
Yeah.
I'm sitting with a curriculum. I want to take this, I want to grab that, I want to weave those together, I want to have an insight. I want my time learning to be spent learning, not watching somebody tell me stuff that I'm like, but why?
Yeah. I just want to, yeah, no, I totally get it. I remember when one of my kids was younger, really quite young, very smart, even when he was like, 5. And I remember somebody else in our family kind of, because he would always say, but why do I need to do that? And this other family member say, well, because you've been told, and like this old school in the 90s, because I said so, and you're a lesser being and I'm an adult. Not that it wasn't that brutal, but it felt like that. And I learned really quickly, and this was way before either of my kids were diagnosed or I was diagnosed. I just felt in my gut that he needed to know. So I'd say, could you get your stuff ready for school? Okay, why? So I'd say, because you need to take all your equipment to school, because then if you've got it, you won't be worried, or just rattle off the reasons. Once he had that, you could see his face like, yeah. And it had become his really good idea. Like, yeah, I'm going to do that, getting stuff together, so that he needed to know, if I do this, what does that mean further down the line? It wasn't a kind of why do I have to question. It was like you said, he wanted that detail. He needed that detail to be able to kind of slot it all into place, get with the process, basically. And I guess that was a part of PDA for him, just that kind of needing to understand the end goal so that he could kind of start trotting towards it, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense, because it also underlines how quite a lot of the time when I was growing up, I would ask clarifying questions and it was seen to be cheeky,
Yeah.
insolent. That's a
Yeah.
that's a word that my dad used all the don't be insolent. And it's like, I'm I'm not. I'm just literally I'm
Yeah.
clarifying what you've said, because
Yeah.
to me your meaning is not clear. But
Yeah.
because you're the authority figure, I'm not allowed to question. It's seen
Yeah.
as questioning the authority, and it's not. It's just like, I want to make sure literally you know, the mask is not
being
up.
an idiot.
There's
Yeah.
no, there's like, I'm willing to lean into what you're asking me. So I just need to ask a clarifying question. And then you get slammed and you're like, right, so I've got to guess. And that stress and that anxiety, that just feeds
Yeah.
into the, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
100%.
a tip to anyone who has a child or an employee or understanding themselves, if you need to ask a lot of clarifying questions, just to answer them at face value. Don't
Yeah.
think that it's the person stepping up and trying to challenge you. They may be just trying to silence the noise in their head of like all the alarms going off, going, ask this, what about that? What happens in this circumstance? Has he thought about, you know, and all they're trying to do is align their thinking in the direction that you want them to think or to act.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
maybe your boss is just a power happy idiot that doesn't explain things properly.
Well, there's a
Sorry.
there's a whole story there, I feel. um,
Yeah, can you
so
tell I've got a bit of bitterness going on?
so we've had a discussion about the PDA, how it shows up, what it is, how people might
Yeah.
recognize it, or how it might manifest for them. And there may be there's a you know, this is why it's a spectrum. It may show up some days, it might not others. It might only show when you've got low energy. For me, anyone asking me to do something when I've either got a major project, so I liken it to having all of the things exploded in diagram form up in front of me, like a pyramid balanced on its tip of ideas. And somebody comes in and goes, "You want to do?" Yeah, my brain's like, "I'm holding a pyramid upside down. If you think I am not going to focus on this," and that pathological demand avoidance is different to the "you're an idiot and I have stopped listening."
Yes.
So there
So
are different,
different.
it shows up different ways. And
Yeah.
it, again, your energy, you know, if I'm happy and everything's good, I might not want to know all the reasons why. I might just do it because it's like, ow, it's just get them done and away.
Yeah.
So we've explored this and we've highlighted this, and we know we're never going to get rid of it. You know, it's there, it's baked into the hardware.
Mm.
Self-employment, how do you balance this bug in the software with deadlines, emails, customers, phones ringing, all of that? Why would you put yourself in that firing line if PDA is going to scupper everything you try? Surely successes are never going to happen.
Yeah,
Or,
that's
you
you're making
know,
me question my choices now.
serve that
Yes,
up.
Stu, why have yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah,
Um,
oh God.
I wonder, so one of the many things I love about self-employment is that, yes, I'm the boss of me, which is amazing. I love being the boss of me. I'm quite a nice, kind boss to myself. But also, I get to be, we've touched on this, but I get to manage my own time and the days that I can do certain tasks better than other days. Excuse me, sorry. Which is fabulous. And also, I'm the most understanding boss. So actually, I have learned, evolved to be very compassionate to myself on the days where, and you've taught me a lot of this as well, to be honest. I've modeled it off a lot of the things that I know you do, kind of buffer days. If I know that I've got a big thing on or a big deadline on, then I put in, I won't go into tips just yet, but it's about being compassionate to myself and understanding that actually, or reframing a lot of the demands into kind of, I'm choosing to do them, not I have to do them. That often works for me, because a real trigger for me is like, this is a deadline set in concrete, you've got to do it. Then I hear this giant kind of Alice in Wonderland clock, like tick, 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 and the panic building up as I hear this awful clock. So I've learned that actually kind of reframing those demands, that making them feel like, yes, a deadline isn't a choice, but it is a choice how I approach it. Do I wait till a day before and end up feeling terrible? Or do I understand that it might take me 2 weeks to have the right number of days to get it done in, you know, in the least painful way possible. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Allowing those off days and on days.
Also, if you look at and you zoom out and the reason, and you need to know the reason why, it's sometimes if I can't get the reason why, or it seems opaque, and asking for that is not going to give you any further insight to help you. I touch on my own why. The reason why this deadline is important, irrespective of the fact that it's important to my customer, it's important to me to provide this service at this level because my reputation in business matters.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes be the adult in the room that's like, well, you've been 30 years, what, you're going to stop doing it now, as my grandfather used to say. And it bugged me because it 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 was so apparent from what he said, but by the same token, it annoyed me that he'd had this insight, and it was how you do one thing is how you do everything. And it's true. People don't choose where they drop the ball. And this was never more evident than when I was buying and selling cars. You'd turn up to a house, and if the car was immaculate and the house was a hole, the car had been set up to be sold. They tarted it up, and you had to look extra hard because people don't choose. That car has every single day looked like that house, but for today. And people do it when they go dating,
Yes.
they shine themselves up, but underneath it all, they're going to default to scratching their ass on a Monday, wearing their pajamas on a Saturday morning, not getting dressed. The point to it is that turning up and showing up is not an option sometimes in business, and you have to find your own coping strategies, find your own ways of making the reason important enough that you get over yourself, because otherwise it's like constant round of phone calls to people telling them, I'm really sorry that I screwed up that deadline, I'm really sorry your project has gone off the rails, I'm really sorry those things that I said I was going to send out I didn't send out because I just couldn't face peopling. And I go through those questions, those scenarios in my head sometimes when it's my brain's going, no, I don't want to do it, nah, anything but. And it's like, right, okay, so you're going to phone up the head of this large project that's a multi-million-pound project and tell him that you just don't feel like doing it today. How does that look? For myself, I sometimes have to give myself that kind of grab by the lapels and a shake and a get on with it.
I hear that. Little team talk in the locker room, but it's just me. What are you doing, Hannah? Come on.
A word with yourself. No, quite literally I do, yeah. Oh God, so much self-reflection.
Do you also, though, so this is something I actively do, and this is going to sound like I've got a million client inquiries every day, and I 100% do not, but I've allowed myself the luxury of being able to make an active choice when it comes to the people I work with. That's not to say I do not pick clients that are like, yeah, Hannah, just do what you want, no one cares. It's not that. I still have deadlines. We've talked about the things I have to do on time, blogs and newsletters and things that require a set date. But I do work with clients. I'm very transparent. I don't tell them like I'll miss a deadline, because I never do. Touch wood, I don't miss a deadline. But I do say, I tend to work on my own time frame. I know how I work best, and they get it. So I don't work with people, I have done, and it breaks me, work with people that are kind of got a whip out to kind of telling me I can't dance to their tune, and they learn very quickly that I won't dance to their tune because it doesn't serve either of us. That's probably lost me any potential clients that are ever listening to this podcast.
No,
it's not an obnoxious, you know what I'm saying. It's not an obnoxious, I mean, for example, so one of my favorite clients, if she's listening, you are my favorite. One of my favorite clients that I do a regular blog and newsletter for. When I first met her, she said, I want to do a cold email campaign. And my brain, before my mouth was kind of like, no, my brain said why. And she told me the reasons why she wants to do a cold email campaign. And I said, yeah, no, we won't be doing that. And I explained in graphic detail why I didn't think that would serve her. It wasn't I didn't want to. I knew very quickly it was not the route for her to go down from a marketing point of view. And she, that could have been a defining moment of her thinking, what the heck, I'm not working with this woman. But actually she didn't. She respected that kind of slightly blunt, I've analysed it, the data's coming up, it's a no from me, I won't be doing that. And I did say, if you want somebody to do that, I could find somebody that would. I just don't think it would serve you, and my brain can't do it because I don't believe in it. And actually, we work really well together because she just says, "I trust you, Hannah. I know that you know what you're doing," and it's a really beautiful thing that's going on with us. But the reason I've gone off on yet another tangent is my point is I work with the kind of clients that trust me and trust in the process, and they know that I will always be on time. So we'll never say never, but because of the way that I work. So yeah.
That's an interesting one, actually. Is the pathological demand avoidance actually PDA, or is it just your professionalism being not undermined? Undermine's too strong a word, because you're a
Not trusted
participant
in,
in it,
yeah.
but you're not showing up and being your best because it's that classic neurodiverse thing of, I want you to like me and I want to agree with you. I actually want you to succeed. I want you to have the best thing for you that can
Yeah,
happen. Uh, and I just don't know how to deliver the bad news that your idea is not the best idea for you.
yeah.
I,
Yes.
I I've got much better over the years for two things. One, telling my clients if there's a good idea or a bad idea from my perspective, and laying out my reasoning. That's the key point. It's not just like, nah, don't fancy it. It's, now I've been here before, or I know where this goes, or you go head towards, and that's, I know, a suboptimal outcome. But then you subsume that because sometimes you take on a client because you need to.
Yeah.
We've all got to keep a light on, and you know that you can deliver the thing, even though part of you is a bit like, oh, I'm not sure they're going to
Yeah.
get what they want. And but over the years, I've just learned, they're grown up, they're a big boy or big girl, they've decided that they want this thing done. Who am I, other than somebody who's got years of experience of doing the things that I do?
Somebody that knows better than them.
But you see, that can sometimes be how it shows up.
Yeah.
Like I said, it can be that questioning thing where you start to ask the questions and they just start getting tipped up. And at that point, you're like, well, there's no point going down this road because it's quite clear that what I'm saying is annoying you. And I can think of one client this year that I have stopped working with after a particularly brutal phone call with their web developers when I was asking some fundamental questions that weren't being answered, and then I was shamed and guilted and othered. And it left me a bit reeling.
Yeah.
When I'm attacked, I go mute, and
Yeah.
it's something over the years that I've tried and struggled with, and it's because I want to give the other person space and hold space for them to have their idea fully without
Yeah.
me interrupt, because I hate it, don't you, when somebody's like, you're trying to explain a chain of thoughts and it's hard enough
Yes.
sometimes to hold all this stuff lined up and get it all out, and then somebody's like, oh yeah, but that, and you're like, can you wait till the end because I'm going to cover that. You just, and what about, mm?
I'm like that.
And
I've
in
done
the
that to
end, you're
people.
just like, all right, I'll say nothing. I'll just sit here and listen to you because it's quite clear you don't want to listen to me. uh, which can again show up as PDA because you're like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Every time I raise a question, I get so much pushback and an email chain that's this long, and
Yeah.
you just, I'll just do what I said then. And then that just switches your brain off, and then your brain's like, why are you even bothering with this? So
Yeah.
it's not a single root cause, it's not a single root response. It's a spectrum, it's multifaceted, and it can show up
Yeah.
in different ways on different days.
So I feel this really strongly, and I don't know if this is a universal thing or not, but I really need to believe, and this is limiting from a work point of view, I only work on projects that I really believe in. And I appreciate that that kind of massively narrows down my opportunities. But the reason, and I think it is to do with PDA, if I'm not into it, I get bored really quickly, right? You know, another of the wonderful, the wonderful
Feature, not a
benefit.
bug.
I mean, my husband and I have lasted 22 years, so clearly I can overcome that boredom factor. Also, he's not boring if you're listening. But also, I need to believe in something. I need to trust in the process. And like you said, sometimes you do have to suck it up and be like, this is a good piece of work. You need to keep the lights on. I can't do that. If my therapist was listening, he'd say, don't say you can't, Hannah. But it's true. If I don't believe, like with the lady with the email campaign, if she had said, no, I need to do that, it's 100% what I want to do, I wouldn't have done it. I'd have said, okay, I'll find somebody else that can do you an automated email campaign. I can do it, but I didn't believe that it was a good idea for her. And therefore, I knew that it would be on my to-do list and it would go lower and lower. And I keep kicking it back, kicking it down the road until 2 months had gone and I'd not delivered anything because the PDA would be like, no, boring, next. So it's a really limiting in some ways for me, but it's a real big part of my PDA. Or maybe it isn't PDA, but it all seems to be intertwined.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to know where one thing stops and the
Yeah.
next thing starts.
They're all just clinging on to each other, aren't they? Just
So we've discussed how it shows up and what it affects us like,
yeah.
and what it's likely to show up like for some people who are listening. Um, Tips,
Tips.
hints, ideas,
Hints and
thoughts,
tips.
general approaches, strategies. Well, I mean, I've got my own, but you kick us off down the. This is all about getting shit done. So, what do you do, Hannah Logan, to
Yeah.
get shit done when PDA is kicking your butt?
Well, so recently, and I'm not on any commission here, and don't want to get sued, but recently I was on a call to a good friend of mine, Tony, and he said about an app called Forest. And this, I'm a very visual person. This app called Forest, basically, you plant trees, but what it is all about is little bits of blocks of time that encourage you to focus on one thing at a time. So I could set in this app, I'm going to take half an hour to put together the structure of a blog. And then I set the app half an hour and I put in the title, blog structure. And then it grows a tree for me while I'm doing this thing. It grows a tree. So you're starting to grow a forest. But what it encourages me to do, because I'm very visual, is it forces my brain, like, okay, Hannah, you're in the blog foundation phase. You've got a tree growing in the background. I know this probably sounds a bit strange, but for me, it kind of blocks out that piece of time, and my brain can get on board with that. Like, okay, this is the half hour for that. And then I don't then go and tidy my sock drawer or, go down to get a cup of tea and end up combing the dog or so, all these different ridiculous distractions that my brain puts in place. So I suppose one of my hints would be maybe some kind of time management, but more of a kind of fun, interactive way that maybe encourages you to block in some time and use that time. But also, if you pick up your phone, it tells you to put it back down. So it's a kind of way of like, do not, of like reining in that distraction.
Oh
Although I
well,
hate being told to put it back down. The other day, I actually had an argument with it.
you won't tell me what
It
to
was
do.
like, don't look at your phone, and I was like, I will look at my phone. Yeah, don't.
I'm
Come on,
looking. I'm
Forrest,
looking.
don't treat me like I'm your fool. I'm looking right at it. Um, so I suppose, I guess that's a long way of saying I like to block in a bit of time, even if it's on my calendar, a way for my brain to kind of prep for a bit of time to do a specific project
Hmm.
is to kind of block that time in and name it so that I'm kind of ready for it. Does that make any sense? Some days I almost like to break any task, even if that task is literally existing, into really tiny bits. And it might be like, okay, I'm going to open my laptop and fire it up. and then make a cup of tea, like baby steps. In a way, if you were helping like a little kid, like, okay, don't worry, you don't have to do it all at once. Just like put one shoe on at a time and I'll help you do the laces. It's this kind of gentle coaxing of my PDA or my brain into like, it's cool. It doesn't need to be rushed. That sort of self-carey kind approach. And it kind of tricks, I find that tricks my brain into kind of building up more momentum. You know what I mean? If I start off slowly, like, don't panic, brain, don't flip over into PDA. It's all cool. We just need to open the laptop. And then when you do that, there's like a little bit of brain that goes, yay, tick, achieved. And then you kind of level up to the kind of start typing something. But actually, I find that easing in on a really, this is a worst day scenario, right? Easing in, then my brain's like, okay, I'm on it. I'm on the track. So I can do this now. And it builds that momentum. So it's a gentle, rather than like, nope, shame, panic, oh God, the day's wasted. I'm like, well, what can you do, brain? You can do stuff. Let's just ease you in gently. And yeah, that does help me.
The whole zooming out too far, I do that, and it literally, I have a physical reaction. Gemma will often say, what was that? And I'm like, oh, just the overwhelming nature of life. Just, it's just like I've
Yes.
zoomed out too far. I
I
went
looked at my
out as
10-year
far as the heat
plan.
death of the universe, and it's all too much. It's too overwhelming. Why do I even bother with, opening my laptop when we're all going to burn in the sun? You know,
1 minute at a time. That's what I like to do.
Stuart, you
Life.
fast forwarded 100 billion years. Get back.
Now I'm a dinosaur.
That did for me in my 20s.
Yeah,
I felt like sometimes this concrete slab of expectation
yeah,
and just demand, just overwhelming. But those baby steps, that
yeah.
that small bites, and can be really valuable. It's like,
Mm.
you don't jump in the ocean, you slide in, let the waves lap round your ankles and just steadily ease yourself into your day's work. Sometimes that's the only thing that I can do to get through the day. Is a lot of little tasks that in and of themselves don't push any one project over the line or whatever, but they just all turn on the burners and just like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
and sometimes, I work in a slightly complex technical field in some regards, and
Mm.
dealing with domains and DNS settings and all the rest of it. And this week we've had a couple of customers with particularly tricky little foibles and things, and it's all fine-grained stuff that needs to be thought about, and it can just feel interminable that you're sifting grit, you're not getting anywhere. But
Mm.
each individual setting or thing that you learn or test shows you pushes it forward. So rather than thinking I've got to get to that for the customer, all I've got to do is
Yeah.
do this little test, put that in my notes, come back to it later. And you're right, that makes you, next time when you're thinking about it, oh, I did the thing, didn't I did the thing, so that means I can do the next thing.
Yeah.
And blocking those out in your diary can really make a difference. And it's also accommodating yourself and being kind to yourself that
Yeah.
you can slide it forward a day if you need to. Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody is going to start shouting at you. Well, unless you've missed a deadline. But
Then you
if you know what
deserve
the
it, you know.
overall deadline is, shifting by a day is being kind to yourself and where your brain's at.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you taught me, and I'd never even thought of it, which is bizarre at 50 years old. You taught me about buffering, knowing I've always hit life at 100 miles per hour. And actually, what happened, a couple of years ago is I got some health conditions that were brought on by burnout and all sorts of things associated with that. That forced me physically to slow down. But then you started to sort of teach me, or rather I learned it from watching what you do and listening to what you said about it. Allowing yourself, if you have a day where you're like, oh wow, no, I just can't, I can't people, I can't do anything other than shuffle around in my pajamas, then actually that's okay. And like you said with the deadlines, I mean, what I tend to do, because I know there might well be those days, if I've got a blog due in 2 weeks time, I start writing it 3 weeks before, you know, so that I'm just allowing myself loads of time. You know, I have to do the same date every month, so I know that if it's due at the end of the month, I start in the first week of the month. That way I chip away. Sometimes I just smash it out in one day. It's 3 weeks early. I don't deliver it till three, you know, it sits in my documents till it's ready or till it's time to deliver. But actually it's knowing all that and allowing that time, and kind of, yeah, it makes a huge difference to me knowing that I've got that buffering time. I also, which is a really big thing for me, and it definitely keeps up the momentum of my workflow, I talked about blocking stuff into my calendar. I'm a very visual person. I block it into the calendar on my phone. When I do a task, I delete it. And
Oh,
every time I delete it, I'm like, there's a part of my brain that literally goes, yay, like little pom poms. I can see cheerleaders in my brain, like, yay, she did it. She like a little dance. And then I'm like, yes, you're on fire. And I get the next task. And that really helps my momentum. I
well,
don't try and do that on a bad day, but yeah.
that's a gamification, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's really quite. I mean, I've used that before for
Mm.
myself. Various things, and up to and including, if I successfully deliver this project by this date, I will buy myself a treat up to and
Yes.
including this value, which could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
a minor treat in comparison. I'll have a gluten-free cake and a coffee at a nice local eatery that we've got, or I'll go out with Jem for a meal if it's a much bigger project.
Yeah.
Um, and
Little rewards,
those
incentives. Yeah.
rewards, including recognizing your wins. The amount of times
Yeah.
I speak to business owners and say, "What, got any wins?" Silence,
Yeah.
nothing. And you're like, so why are you in business if you're not celebrating your success? Surely you've got to be your own cheerleader, and that can in and of itself be tiring. But we all have little wins every week. I did that. Yay. Congratulate yourself for getting a project started as much as you got the project
Mm.
finished. Yay, new project started. Yay, new blog post notes written up. And just give yourself a pat on the
Yeah.
back. Go and have a cup of tea and a 10-minute, give yourself an extra 10-minute break at lunch. Sometimes, and this is again small wins. If I've smashed out my day's work in the morning, so the things that I've set myself to do by lunchtime, I might not come back in the afternoon. I'll take that as a win.
Yeah.
That's my win. I'm having the afternoon. That's not to say I ignore anything that's coming in my inbox. I
No.
keep one eye on the inbox, but
But you
my
turn the
time is
speed
my own
down.
now.
Yeah.
Or simple things like I know I've got stuff that I've got to do in the afternoon. I'm going to watch an entire movie at lunch. I'm not going to have an hour. I'm going to have an hour and a half, hour 45. Ooh,
How
fancy me.
decadent.
But that sets me up because I feel
Yeah.
like I recognise that I did well. I had a little reward. Well done, me. Time to get back at it.
Yeah. I think, and I fall into this camp for sure, and I hear everything you're saying, and I'm going to try actively to do that. I think we can be quite hard on ourselves, and when, like you were saying, you'll say to business owners, any wins, and they're like, no. I think what it is a lot of people think a win is like, yeah, I just took a £10,000 project on, but actually a win could be I tackled that blog that I've been struggling on, or I got started on a CRM system that I've really been putting off, or whatever it is that you do in business. Those are the wins. So actually, it isn't just about congratulating yourself on the wins, but it's actually about recognizing that wins doesn't have to be got the world's biggest client. Wins can literally be got dressed when I really wasn't feeling it, opened my laptop and started on a project or something like that. So, yeah.
What about I, I've heard it described as external scaffolding, external support, people that
Oh,
you or things and processes that you put around yourself to help you. Have you heard of body doubling?
yes. Oh my gosh. I don't do it really myself, but I know a lot about it from, yeah, a
So
couple that we both
if
follow.
you've not heard, my uh, understanding that body doubling is
Mm.
similar to this, that you switch on your Zoom, you switch on your choice of video, or even if it's
Yeah.
just audio, and you just go about your day with the other person going about their day, and you might interact, but it's about having someone present without them being in your field of view and actively talking to them. Have you tried that? Have you thought about that?
Yeah. So I've kind of, yeah, it's just a bit of a sort of buddy system in a way, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's like a really gentle accountability. What I've done before, I've not done exactly that, although I hear really good things about it. And actually no, I have. Not in business, but like for example, my daughter and I are quite messy, but we have so much craft stuff because that's like a thing we like to do outside of, outside of day-to-day work. And our living room is like an emporium of craft stuff, much to my husband's horror. Occasionally, and this weekend is one of those apparently, occasionally neither of us, Lula, my daughter, and I can't just crack on with it on our own. But when we team up, we'll be like, okay, let's just do this. We've got to clear some of this stuff. When we're doing it together, we can both do it. We are both productive. We're kind of cheering each other on and buddying up to kind of tackle a little mountain of beads and all sorts of all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so I am doing the buddy system or the body doubling, but just yeah, I've not directly done it in business. I suppose from a business point of view, what I have done is kind of said to other people, maybe you or some other people I've met in networking, I might say this morning I'm going to do X. Like I'm building my website at the moment, or not, I'm not building it, I'm helping. So I'll say to my web builder, like, right, I'm going to write all the content for whatever. I don't do it. If you're listening, Matt, I am so sorry because I've still not done it. But you know what I mean? If I tell somebody, yeah, I'm going to do that on Thursday, sometimes it means that I'm like, I told that person, that means I need to. It's another incentive or kind of, like you said earlier, flag kind of thing, or yeah, a little guide.
Yeah, I
So
think it might
sort of,
feed into the whole parallel play phenomena that they
yeah.
talk about with autism specifically, that
Mm.
you'll play alongside somebody else rather than with them. And it's
Yes.
exactly my experience with, in fact, one of my best friends. I used to love going around playing Lego with him because he didn't try and take over what I was doing. I could get on with building whatever it is I wanted to build, and he wouldn't be there going, "Oh, what if you do this? What if you change that?" And, and taking it off me like all my cousins used to. No, it needs to be this. Give it back. Do your own.
I remember, sorry to interrupt you. I remember years and years ago when my daughter was much younger and I used to do like we do sometimes. I regret this now. I'd kind of invite some random kid that she didn't want to hang out with for tea, like so and so's coming for tea, and you see her little face like, oh. And after one of these many disastrous tea dates, afterwards I said, "What is it, darling?" And she said, "I just don't like people coming for tea." And I said, "Why?" Because it's nice, you can show them your toys and it's nice to have. And she said, "Because they want to talk to me." And as she said it, I thought, yes, that's a problem I have. If I'm not in the zone, I'm just like, ironic. I realise ironic because I'm the world's biggest talker, but yeah, sometimes I just want to be in a room with somebody that doesn't bloody talk. I don't want a tea date where I feel compelled to make small talk with some random kid that my mother invited.
But you see, this
So yeah,
this
your Lego friend sounds perfect.
this talks to a wider the wider issue of
Yeah.
a framework for life that
Mm.
is used by everyone, no matter what their neurotype is,
Yeah.
even if that framework doesn't fit them. Oh, children go
Yeah.
on tea dates, children mix and
Yeah.
mingle and socialize in this way. And then I've seen parents, beating themselves up that the children that have come to
Yeah. Yeah.
parties that we've thrown have spent time away and unable to interact. Oh, I'm really sorry. No, no, no. They're doing them. That's great. That's
Yeah.
great that they've turned up. Let's celebrate the fact that they would like to come, but they just can't
Yeah.
cope with the noise and the dysregulation, and they're doing the
Yeah.
party in their own way. And I think that's really important for our listeners to understand that
Yeah.
ch- choose the frameworks around you that you use and the strategies that work best for you. Don't take what we say and apply it and make it. This is our lived experience. We have like they say, you meet one neurodiverse person, you've met one neurodiverse person.
Yeah.
We're all individuals. We all have our different needs and our different approaches and our different businesses. So what we're saying is explore this idea, think about it, see how it shows up for you, and learn some coping strategies that you're able to implement. It's no good saying, oh, I've got to do body doubling, and then you're stressing about, oh God, that person keeps, I should talk to
Keeps
and get
talking.
someone. Don't stress. Don't add to your to-do list. Look at ways to make your to-do list easier to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody said to me the other day, and actually I've not done this properly, but I am going to, and that this person is neurodiverse. They said what they really find, you get a lot of co-working spaces like co-working cafes
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not just virtual, people do it online as well.
Yeah.
But this particular woman said she finds her most productive days are when she goes to a co-working space. She said it's a very quiet space. So it's not loads of distraction and noise and overwhelm and bright lights or anything. And I said, oh God, does everyone talk to you? And she said, no, because it attracts the same kind of people, probably neurodiverse. So she said they all just sit in silence, but there's this air of productivity that kind of gets them all motivated. You know what I mean? Like they're all tapping, looking around, like, oh, look at us being productive. And it just, she said it's the magic. Her busiest days are when she goes to this cafe and just sits amongst all these other people and ignoring each other. It sounds like your Lego date. It sounds fabulous.
But look, we could talk about stuff
Yeah, yeah.
like this for hours,
Forever.
forever. And thank you for joining us whilst we do. It's not about fixing yourself. It's not about making your aligning yourself to other people's standards and demands. It's about recognizing what coping strategies and mechanisms you can put in place, and why you're self-employed in the first place. Surely is about accommodating yourself, being the biggest accommodator of your own needs. And if you, as your own boss, can't accommodate your needs and be kind to yourself about them, then how can you expect anyone else? So self-love and self-care, we're all about that. So thanks for the topic, Hannah. I'm interested. What we've got coming up next week is we're going to be talking about how to cope with seasonal celebrations, birthdays, and holidays, which I'm looking forward to because yeah, as somebody who doesn't really enjoy his birthday, I'm sure we'll get into that. Um, Thank you for listening. If you can throw us a like, share, and a subscribe, that would allow us to show the YouTube algorithm what we like. If you're not listening on YouTube and you're on a podcast platform, leave a review, leave a like, do whatever it is on that platform that says to the algorithm for you want to hear more of us, and then more of us will show up. And if you can't bear to rely on other people and you demand to be told immediately when something new Oddcast is being delivered, then sign up to our newsletter list, link below, and we will notify you that we've got a new drop, we've got a new episode, we've got a new resource. We've got some good resources going live on the site to help with this sort of thing, and check that out if you can. Any last words, Hannah?
Last words.
Not forever, not like,
Yeah, like is this
gonna
me
send the
spying my
guys round.
life? I felt like I was going to break into a Gwyneth Paltrow type
In the box.
Oscar nomination. Just be kind to yourself. I know that is a bit cliche, and yeah, but just when it comes to PDA, it can be brutal. Don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself. Understand yourself better, and you will get through it. But yeah, hopefully with a lot of the tips we've just given you as well.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. It's a great subject, and hopefully if you've got any feedback or want to give us any insights about your own PDA, do send it to us. Hosts at businessoddcast.com, or you can just go to our website, businessoddcast.com, and send us an email or a message from there. We love to hear from you, and thanks to everybody who has given us all the encouragement thus far, and we hope to continue and shape what we do with the feedback, because we're here to serve you and help you to run a neurodiverse business the best way you can for yourself. So we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye. Take care. Step away from PAYE. Don't do it.